will be talking to you about death with dignity. Nicholas Gideons once said, "For my patients who have used this law, I was honored that I could be with them every step of the way, ensuring that they had control of the final days of their life." That's what death with dignity means. Death with dignity is also known as assisted suicide and should be legal. It is 100% moral and should be one's own choice when it comes down to the decision. The topics I'm going to be covering today are suffering of the patient, the financial burden of the patient and the family after death, and then the patient's right to decide. To begin with, suffering and pain every day. Imagine that you are sitting in this bed and the doctor has told you that you are terminally ill, there is no way around it, and you have this designated time frame. It's not what you'd really want, and the patients want to get rid of their suffering. Many ask how they'll know when it's time, and they say that they'll know when it's time when you have been robbed of your quality of life, when all the pain and suffering of your disease that you have has robbed the quality and value of your life. Picture this, you're in agonizing pain each and every day, there's no way out of it, you know that you only have this set time frame, and that's not even a promised time frame. There's no way to escape it, you're terminally ill, that means you're stuck with it. You know that you're not going to get better. That's one thing that struggles the most with patients that are terminally ill. And it takes the value of their life away from them. It makes it seem as if they're living for somebody else compared to as if they were living on their own terms and when they got to decide when they were going to die and end. Or consider knowing you have a limited time frame. Having a limited time frame makes you stress even more because you know you only have so much time to do everything and you don't even know if that time is even promised to you. It's just an estimate on how much time you even have. It could be from one day to the time that they have you estimated. You could die the next day, you could die a week from then, you could die 4 weeks, you never know. It's all just an estimate on their best guess that they can give you, and that's not really reassuring. It causes a lot of tension and stress when it comes down to it because the patients focus more on being sick and that they're not going to recover compared to, living and being positive on what they're going to do with their last days. It's hard. Nicholas also said, "The relief from my terminally ill patients and their families is palpable. Aid in dying for terminal patients is an essential part of good, compassionate end-of-life care." And now I will talk about Brittany Maynard. Alright, so next I will be talking about Brittany Maynard. She's the one that's right here. And on this picture down here, sorry, I'm going to have to pull this close because I didn't realize it printed so small, but having the choice at the end of my life has become incredibly important, has given me a sense of peace during the time that otherwise would be dominated by fear, uncertainty, and pain. And then right here is the states that are legalized and what year they legalized in. And it says Oregon was 1997, Washington was 2008, Vermont was 2013, California and Colorado was 2006, Washington was 2017, I meant 2016 for the California one, sorry. And then 2018, Hawaii just made it legal. And then down here are the people who received the prescriptions in the green, and then the purple is who actually used them. So as you can see, a lot of people did receive the medication, but not even half of them used it. And a little bit more on Brittany. Brittany was 29 when she was diagnosed with terminally ill cancer. She was diagnosed June of 2014. She moved to Oregon after hearing about this because that's when Oregon legalized theirs, was in 1997, and that's the first state to ever legalize death with dignity. She began this assisted suicide process. You have to sign up, you have to go through all these examinations, and then you have to get a rundown of what happens. You get a pill. There is liquid forms that have been made before, but right now they just usually do pills. But you get a pill. And then Brittany said that she wanted the option of a peaceful, humane death. And Brittany also said, I felt secure in the ability to live fully and vibrantly, but control the amount of suffering I would endure. And a lot of these people like to just have the pill just to control that amount of suffering. They don't look at it as a way out. They look at it as to control their amount of suffering that they're going through. Many argue that it's not humane and that suicide shouldn't be an option to consider, like when it comes down to things like this, because they think suicide is running away from the problem instead of facing it head on. But when it comes down to having terminally ill cancer, that's where things tend to get hard, is because you can't just run and face the problem knowing that you're going to get out of it, because with terminally ill cancer, there's no getting out of it. What this overlooks is with the suffering and pain, you gotta understand that the people don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to go through this pain that they have to go through every day. You may see them on their high days where they're very good and doing really good, and you may see them on their low days where they're doing really, really bad. It's one thing that can never be like planned upon. You never know when you're gonna have your high days. You never know when you're gonna have those low days. And the people deserve to go on their own terms. They don't deserve to have someone else telling them that they have to wait to die and suffer while dying. So next, let us consider it's the person's decision/choice. I think the person's decision in the end is the most important compared to what others want, because the person is actually the one going through this. Nobody else is sitting there going through the pain that they're going through. It says, in the US, cancer is listed as the cause in close to 1/4 of all deaths. We need to let them choose when it's time to go, because it's not us going, it's somebody else going. 74% of Americans and 54% of US physicians want this to be legal in all states. Nationwide, everyone deserves this option. It should be an option to everybody when it comes down to having a terminally ill disease. It shouldn't be what everybody else wants. It should be what that person wants. And the best thing about death with dignity is that it gives you that option in the states that it's legal. They give you the pill, but you have the option of taking it. You get to decide when you take it. Like, you just have this pill. You have it as a backup just in case you decide that that's what you want to do. You have the freedom and empowerment to set your own time frame, basically. It gives the people the comfort knowing that they have this thing that they can turn to when things get unbearable, when they can't handle it anymore, when it gets to the point of where their disease is causing them so much pain that they can't stand to even wake up the next day. Others think that this shouldn't be legal anywhere. This view sounds like they don't have the rights to control their own lives. And having control of your own life is one of the rights that we should have. And finally, I'm going to talk about the expenses and burdens when it comes to having terminally ill cancer, because with the cancer, you have the hospital stays, and you're going to have all those bills on top of that, and then all the medications that you're prescribed, all of that on top of that. A lot of people worry about the burden after death, like what happens to their family, how they're going to have to pay. And studies have shown that 70% of cancer deaths occur to those in lower middle incomes, which means that even if it isn't terminally ill, a lot of them result in death because they can't afford it, or they stress out too much and worry about that instead of focusing on recovering. An Association of Oncology Social Work shows that more than half of cancer costs negatively impact their focus on recovering, which means they are so stressed out about worrying about their costs and how they're going to pay off these medical bills if they do recover, that they don't focus on recovering. They don't have time to, because they're worrying about this money. Imagine stressing so much that you don't think about getting better. That's awful. When a person dies, any outstanding debts are paid off by money or property left behind, which means if you have some outstanding debts, you could have the houses that you have taken away after you die. Quite a bit can be taken from the patient's family when it comes down to it. Insurance, during this study, was found out that insurance usually doesn't cover most of the cost when it comes to all of that after the death. They won't pay it, they refuse to. And to conclude, I went over the suffering and pain of the patient, one's own right to decide, and the expenses and burdens after death. It's completely moral, no one should have to suffer. It's not right for a person to have to sit there and suffer through their illnesses. It robs them of their value of life. Suffering and being denied of their final wish to go on their own terms is not right to someone. Someone should be able to decide, I want to go now. I don't want to suffer through this pain of my terminally ill sickness. I don't want to have to go through this. They had control of their final days of their lives, and that's what death with dignity means. Thank you.